Hi, this is Sheldon Stephen, and I've got a few minutes. I'm looking at the clock, and I want to go over something with you about a story. And there's a moral to the story. And you don't open the door, and I'm going to get into that in a few minutes. What I mean by don't open the door. But anyway, this is this is not a patient. It's a walk-in. And sometimes we get people walking in from outside that want to be blessed because they know in the neighborhood they kind of know there's something's in here, and then sometimes they come in, they want to talk. In this particular case, this walk-in wanted to talk, and because of that, I can't tell you a whole lot about him. He's about 55 years old though, and the story is that he got into paranormal investigation, and he was doing it for some short period of time, and he was kind of surprised what he kind of found out, but until he did this. And I use the word until. What happened is that he had a friend that passed away suddenly, and it took him for a loop. He was really kind of surprised by it, and he took a little time to get over this. They were good friends, and he kind of told me about a month and a half later. He didn't know this person intimately or knowing, but he knew of her. She was murdered. And he was also, because any time that kind of thing happens, it's it's kind of it's a big shock to your system. You have to kind of go through this. But anyway, he worked through it, but he had fantasized about something, and this is where the door should not be open. What he wanted to do, and he was out near where this friend lived, and he figured that maybe he can get in touch with him. I know, I'm just going to go ahead and just tell you the rest of it. But anyway, what he wanted to do was to get in touch with him. But what he wanted to do was to ask his friend to help him solve the murder. And that's the door you don't open up. And he found out why. And he kind of admitted to me that it was kind of naive, but he never got in touch with his friend. I mean, nothing. But he did, something happened. He had supposedly some sort of a electronic thing that you can actually hear in real time. The spirit. Spirits that are there. But he did hear something that he was not expecting. Because he was thinking about it, the box kind of talked back to him, and what it said, no, you don't. No, you don't. And you don't do this. And he kind of took it by back because he couldn't find his friend. Nothing had happened at all. And as soon as that was said, that box, that electronic box just went, it kind of just shut off. And so he was kind of taken back by this, but again, what he wanted to do is to ask his friend to solve this murder, and whatever was in that box told him, no, you don't do it. But anyway, to kind of go through this, some strange things happened after that. The day after, he got in a car accident and totaled the car. I mean, he got from the rear end, from what I understand, just like an accordion, just got squashed, and he was hurt, but not badly. But the car really got pretty. It was just total. The second thing that added to this is that there was a check he was waiting for, a pretty good size check money, but it was lost in the mail. So he was, in the place where he lives, he was kind of thinking about it. He was kind of putting two together, and he was kind of thinking there's more in this story. But as he's thinking about it, he said out loud, "I get it. I get it. You don't cross that path," and he got it. The other thing in that box, there was one more voice. I think a little bit after that, the voice kind of came back on in that box, and it said, "You're being watched." And so what he was telling me is that, and this happened a couple years ago. He would tell me that in his house or where he lived, he felt a presence at times. He felt like he was being watched, literally being watched. Couldn't see it, and it wasn't, it wasn't, it wasn't an evil, it wasn't anything like that at all. But it just kept watching him, and he kind of knew that he was being watched. Not all the time. Sometimes he'd be in his car, he just felt like a presence, or he's going shopping, and he felt a presence. They were just watching him. Sometimes you can't see who the spirit is. But anyway, and then and part of the rest of the story is that he had a girlfriend, and part of the reason he came in was to talk about what's he going to do because of this experience, and he felt like he's being kind of watched, and he didn't know what to do, and kind of put it in an odd way. He had baggage, spiritual baggage, Kind of an odd way of putting it, but that's exactly what it was. And he asked me what he's going to do, and I just told him that, if your relationship really develops and it goes, gets more serious, you got to just tell her. You got to talk to her about it. But he doesn't do it anymore. He doesn't want anything to do with it whatsoever. He's done with it. That kind of just did it for him. And but he had to tell, and I told him you had to tell your girlfriend about what's going on here, and just tell her that you got into this, you didn't know what you were doing, and so on and so forth. And I think she'll be okay with it. But it's a situation. How do you tell your girlfriend that something is going on here in the spiritual sense? But anyway, the moral of the story, and I'm going to go into the ending because I'm looking at the time, and I got to get somewhere pretty quick, but I wanted to do this video. The moral of the story is you don't open that door. The spiritual world, in other words, our realm is the earthly realm, and the spiritual world, you don't cross over. They're separate, and that's just the way it is. That's just the way it's been. But you never, and that's what he found out. There are some lines that you just cannot cross. And you never really, you don't go into spiritual to ask somebody in the spiritual world to do something in this lifetime. And you just don't do that, and that's exactly what happened. But anyway, I just want to kind of reiterate that to you that you don't want to open the door, and people are kind of dabbing in the spiritual world, and I got to tell you, they don't know what. Sometimes things happen, and you're naive, and things happen, and once you open that door, it's very hard to close it. So I don't know, his relationship with his girlfriend, I don't know how that's going to work out. I think they're going to be okay, but, that's something he's going to have to really talk to her about. But he's done with it. He doesn't want anything to do with it. And he's done, and he's kind of learned his lesson. But I wanted to convey this story to you because I think it's important to know that the spiritual is separate from this world, and you just don't intermix the two of them. I mean, people, if you have a loved one that passed away and, you pray and you tell you miss it, so on and so forth, the normal stuff, that's fine, but you never ask, literally, to help the spirit form to do something in this realm. It's really based on, what he was telling me, and it just makes common sense. You just don't do that. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end it right now. I've just got to get back to work here really quick. I'm going to end it here, and I just want to thank you for listening, and I always do. I always ask how your day is going. I just want to make sure you're doing okay. And again, I want to thank you for listening, and thanks again for listening. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.